The DPRK military personnel changed their combat tactics in the battles in the Kursk region of the Russian Federation. This was stated by the platoon commander of the 95th Separate Airborne Assault Brigade of the Polesie Armed Forces of Ukraine, Stanislav Krasnov, on the air of the telethon. The military man noted that the North Koreans had indeed returned to the battlefield in Kurshchyna, and this was confirmed by observations via aerial reconnaissance. According to him, they had changed their tactics somewhat and were moving in smaller groups. If before they were going in groups of up to 50 people, now it's 15 to 20. But they continue to crawl like cockroaches towards our positions. Somewhere they are gathering in the plantings, trying to break through. But nothing has changed here. They continue to suffer huge losses, Krasnov said. At the same time, he added, the Russians mostly run in groups of up to 4 people, but the North Koreans have already had very painful experience and are adapting to the realities of modern warfare. In particular, they are hiding from strikes from our drones, our artillery, and are dispersing. The platoon commander reported that the situation in the Kursk region is very tense. The Russians are constantly trying to storm the positions of the Ukrainian defense forces, break through the defense line, but they are not succeeding and they are suffering huge losses. According to him, the occupiers are using armored vehicles less and less, but use a large number of assault groups moving through the plantings. For the enemy, this is a reputational issue because the war is now taking place on their territory, so they need to achieve at least some minimal victory at any cost. So they mercilessly throw their infantry at our line of defense, and that is why they suffer such heavy losses, Krasnov said. According to him, after the counterattack of the Ukrainian armed forces in the Kursk region, the Russians deployed very large forces to prevent the further advance of the Ukrainian army, but were unable to do anything. They tried to counterattack from other sides to draw away our resources on other flanks, but they failed, he added. Ukrainian deep state co-founder Ruslan Mykula says that Russia withdrew some North Korean soldiers, but some of them are still participating in assault operations in the Kursk region. North Korean soldiers have been withdrawn, but some are still involved in assault operations. This resembles the situation with the Wagner PMC withdrawal. They immediately started re-signing contracts and re-engaging part of the fighters. Something similar is happening here. North Korean soldiers are still involved, but in smaller numbers. Based on the information we have, they are currently training the survivors and reinforcements are heading to the Kursk region. They want to conduct future assault actions more systematically because, unfortunately, they already have experience. So, the North Koreans are present at the front, but not in such large numbers, explained Mykula.
U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said NATO membership for Ukraine was unrealistic and in sweeping remarks suggested that the way forward for Ukraine was for the country to abandon hopes of a return to its pre-2014 borders and prepare for a negotiated settlement with Russia, one that should be backed up with an international force of troops. According to Associated Press, Hegseth made the comments Wednesday during the first trip to NATO and the Ukraine Defense Contact Group by a member of the new Trump administration. Allies have been waiting to hear how much continued military and financial support Washington intends to provide to Ukraine's government. What they heard was that President Donald Trump is intent on getting Europe to assume the majority of the financial and military responsibilities for the defense of Ukraine, to include a possible peacekeeping force that would not include U.S. troops and that Hegseth said should not have Article 5 protections, which could call upon the U.S. or the 31 other nations of the NATO alliance to come to the aid of those forces if they end up in contact with Russian forces. Hegseth said that Ukraine's Western backers must abandon the illusionary goal of returning the country to its pre-2014 borders, before Russia annexed the Crimean Peninsula and seized parts of eastern Ukraine. Members of this contact group must meet the moment, Hegseth said to the assembled Group PF, approximately 50 member countries who have been providing support to Ukraine since Russia's 2022 invasion. "We hear you," UK Defence Secretary John Healey said in response to Hegseth's opening remarks. Both Hegseth and Healey spoke in front of the press at the top of what would be a closed-door session in Brussels to discuss future aid to Ukraine. Over nearly 3 years, around 50 countries have collectively provided Ukraine more than $126 billion in weapons and military assistance.
Hegseth, who confirmed to me this morning the US is... Friends, we meet at a moment of great consequence. 2025 is the critical year for the war in Ukraine. Ukrainians continue to fight with huge courage, military and civilians alike. Their bravery, fused with our support, has proved a lethal combination. Putin believed he would win this war in 3 days, but now, nearly 3 years on, 850,000 Russians have been killed or wounded. But while Russia is weakened, it remains undeniably dangerous and is slowly taking ground. President Trump and President Zelensky have both spoken of their desire to achieve peace through strength. And it's the commitments here through this contact group that provide the strength to achieve that peace. And our job as defense ministers is to put into the hands of the Ukrainian war fighters what they need to fight and what they need to help force Putin to the negotiating table. At this crucial moment, we must step up further to strengthen Ukraine, to pressure Putin, to secure peace. Pleasure to introduce the new US Defense Secretary, Secretary Hegseth.
Well, good afternoon, friends. As the war approaches its 3rd anniversary, our message is clear. The bloodshed must stop, and this war must end. President Trump has been clear with the American people and with many of your leaders that stopping the fighting and reaching an enduring peace is a top priority. He intends to end this war by diplomacy and bringing both Russia and Ukraine to the table. And the U.S. Department of Defense will help achieve this goal. We will only end this devastating war and establish a durable peace by coupling allied strength with a realistic assessment of the battlefield. We want, like you, a sovereign and prosperous Ukraine. But we must start by recognizing that returning to Ukraine's pre-2014 borders is an unrealistic objective. Chasing this illusionary goal will only prolong the war and cause more suffering. A durable peace for Ukraine must include robust security guarantees to ensure that the war will not begin again. This must not be Minsk 3.0. That said, the United States does not believe that NATO membership for Ukraine is a realistic outcome of a negotiated settlement. Instead, any security guarantee must be backed by capable European and non-European troops. If these troops are deployed as peacekeepers to Ukraine at any point, they should be deployed as part of a non-NATO mission, and they should not be covered under Article 5. There also must be robust international oversight of the line of contact. To be clear, as part of any security guarantee, there will not be U.S. troops deployed to Ukraine. Unambiguously expressed that stark strategic realities prevent the United States of America from being primarily focused on the security of Europe. The United States faces consequential threats to our homeland. We must and we are focusing on security of our own borders. We also face a peer competitor in the communist Chinese with the capability and intent to threaten our homeland and core national interests in the Indo-Pacific. The U.S. is prioritizing deterring war with China in the Pacific.
Представників засобів масової інформації покинути приміщення.